What is going on, YouTube? I am so excited you're joining us because I've been waiting for a long time to make this video, and I am just super excited that we get to sit down and look at some bad logos. I love looking at bad logos. Today, we are talking about how to not design a logo, what you should avoid when designing a logo. So, sit tight, we're gonna get into the video, but first, intro. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the video. I am super excited that you're here. But before we jump in and talk about all of these horrible logos, go ahead and take a minute and hit that subscribe button. Yeah, you know that you need to hit that subscribe button because you don't want to miss any of my videos, and they're all awesome and we have great content. So hit the subscribe button. Alright, let's get into the video talking about some bad logos. Okay, so here we are, bad logo design. We're going to jump in and talk about the principles behind bad logo design. But don't worry, we're going to look at a lot of examples. And everybody loves looking at bad logos, right? I do. I love looking at bad logos. So I was researching this and I was finding a lot of bad logos like all over the internet, right? And I thought to myself, this is kind of like low-hanging fruit. You know, it's really easy to critique a small business and their bad logo and because they spent like $20 on Fiverr to get something designed, whatever. But it's a lot harder to critique like Fortune 500 companies, like big companies that spend millions of dollars on their brands all the time. But there's a lot of big companies that do horrible things to their brands and you're just left going like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this to yourself and your brand? This is horrible. So I thought, should we take the low-hanging fruit and look at all the fun, horrible logo designs? Or do we take the high road and we look at big companies that also made mistakes in their branding? And I thought, why not do both, right? So we're gonna look at both. We're gonna talk about a principle, and then we're gonna look at a horrible logo design, and then we're gonna look at a big company that did the same thing and has a bad logo. So let's get into it. All right, the first principle of bad logo design, things you should avoid, is making the design complex. All right, let's take a look. So our first example here, this logo is extremely complex. I mean, there's so much going on here. I don't even know where to start. We've got like a brain and a leaf, maybe two leaves, and a hand and a circle. It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And I don't know exactly what this company does, but what I can tell you is that whatever they do, this logo mark is way too complicated. When you shrink this logo down, it will lose all of its integrity. Look at that. I just took it down 80% and you can't even tell what's going on in this design. The brain loses all of its integrity in the different little lines and it looks like a blue blob. The hand looks like a generic like two-prong shape because you can't see the fingers anymore. This entire mark just loses its integrity. It's just way too complicated to be used as a logo because when you're designing a logo, it has to be able to be used on big formats, but also super tiny formats, like down to like a fav icon on a website or something. So this is a very complicated mark and it's no good. Throw it out, simplify, get something that's a little bit cleaner. Now, going on to a big company. Let's look at this logo right here. What is this? We all know this logo. This is United Airlines. What even is this logo? Like, is this the logo for the internet or something? It looks like my parents' Windows Vista like internet browser logo. This is awful. There's so much going on, so many lines, so many different design elements in this logo that again, when we shrink this down, it loses almost all of its integrity. You can't see the tiny little lines anymore. They just become kind of a blur of blue and white squares that are kind of in a round 3D globe shape. And you can't really see the tiny details in the mark. So again, this is an example of a logo that's very complicated, and complicated logos should always be avoided. So mistake number one is making the logo way too complicated. Mistake number 2, using lots of color. This one I see in small businesses all the time. They use all of these colors, and then the design of the actual logo mark becomes reliant on those colors. And I know there's people, oh, but I like all of my pretty colors. They look so nice. Yes, but if your design relies on all of those pretty colors to work, then it's not working. It's broken. Let's look at an example. So this logo is, I don't know, a lot of people. It's like people, and they're in some sort of flower or, I don't know, toxic atom symbol, whatever it is. They've got a lot of colors, and each person is its own individual color from their brand color palette. But watch what happens when we make this a one color logo. All of a sudden, you cannot tell what this is anymore. The people just disappear, and it becomes a flower, I think, or maybe an atom. It doesn't have the same effect when you don't have the color. And if your logo ever has a different effect with one color versus multiple colors, you've done something wrong, because the logo can't stand on its own as a mark or an identity. It has to have the color to supplement its design style, and that's not okay. You don't want to do that. Looking at a big company that did this, let's look at the Tide logo. Oof, Tide, please reach out to me. This is bad. This is not good. This logo has multiple colors butting right up against each other. It's just the word Tide on top of a target of yellow and orange. I don't understand. Doesn't make any sense. But there's no good way to make this logo a one color mark. I mean, even the best way that you could do it, looking like this, the mark still doesn't have the same effect that it does with the colors. And that's because this logo mark for Tide is contingent upon having those colors. It's mandatory that this logo mark have those colors to work in the way that they want it to work, and that means this mark is very broken. So if anyone from Tide is watching, hit me up. I'll design you a much better mark, but this one that you have, no good. Alright, logo mistake number 3. This one is also related to color, and that is overlapping colors. You cannot overlap colors and expect the design to hold up when it has to be made into a one color format. Again, there are all kinds of business purposes where your logo and your brand will have to sit in one color, one single cohesive color, black, white, gray, whatever it is. So you can't always have multiple colors stacked on top of each other to convey the brand or the image that you're trying to convey. Let's look at an example. This logo here has a book and then a swooshy person. This reminds me, we're gonna make a little side note here. Do not use swooshy people in your branding. Don't use them. The swooshy people craze is over. Swooshy people are no good. They don't look good. They look amateur. You do not want to use swooshy people in your logo. And you know what I'm talking about. You see it all the time in small businesses. You see it right here in this example. Not good. Don't use them. Just stop it, please. Okay, whew. My rant is over. Let's look back at this design. Okay, so this design is a book and a swooshy person, but look what happens when we make it one color. It just is gone. The logo is just gone. What is this, a meteorite crashing into a book or something? It just doesn't look good. You can't tell that this is a person and a book anymore. The logo just kind of mushes together in this pie of mush. I don't know where I'm going with that. You can't even tell what this is. It looks like a moon or maybe some sort of swoosh. I don't know. And it's just on top of a book. So it's just not good. And brands do this, big brands do this too. Look at the Dairy Queen logo. Everybody knows the Dairy Queen logo, and it's a fine mark if you're just talking about the little kissy lips or whatever you call them. I don't know what those are. But when they added these blue and orange whooshes, again, I don't understand the whoosh craze, but they added these whooshes, and then you make it one color, and boom, you can't tell what it is. It looks like the Dairy Queen logo has arms protruding from it or something. It doesn't match everything else, and you can tell something's wrong with this logo. Remember that. Do not use overlapping colors in your brand design. If you're designing a logo, make sure you design the logo in one color and then you give it all the color treatments that you want to, but never, never, never apply multiple colors on top of each other and then rely on that to communicate the design. Alright, are you having fun? I'm having fun, so let's keep going. Design mistake number 4, making logos three-dimensional. 3D logos came on in the computer craze and the computer design craze because everyone had computers and they were like, oh, I have a computer that can make 3D things, so let's make 3D things because we can. So all these designers started making three-dimensional logos. And three-dimensional logos just do not work on all formats. I get it, your company might be all digital right now, and on screen you can make things look 3D. But if you're gonna grow, there will come a time where you want to have that three-dimensional logo printed onto something that's not three-dimensional, like a flat business card or a bag or anything, really. It just isn't gonna come out right. It doesn't look good. It's not feasible. So please, if you design 3D logos, just stop and design flat icons. Make the logo design flat, and if you make a good mark, it can take on 3D appearances without having to lose any integrity. Okay, so here is our first example on this, and this is like an H, and it's 3D, and it might be super cool for an engineering firm or somebody that thinks that three-dimensional things are like just all the craze. But watch what happens when we make this, again, one color. All of a sudden, you can't tell it's 3D anymore, so it loses basically everything that made it unique and cool in the first place. So please avoid using three-dimensional logos. Here's an example of a popular company that did the exact same thing. Look at this. This is the logo for Best Western. This is the logo. Alright? This is what they went with. This is what they're putting on like all of their buildings across the entire like United States or world if they're international. I think they are. Best Western. What did you do? Why would you add these like lights and try to make shadows and things look three-dimensional? It's not good. I took the liberty in like 2 seconds to help them out. I'm gonna help you out, Best Western, so don't you worry. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Now this is not a good logo design yet. I mean, the B and the W, they don't mean anything and whatever. But if we're gonna just look at what they have currently and make it better, this is a much better mark. Like, this logo is leaps and bounds better than this one. This horrible 3D blob that they're putting on everything. Make your logos flat. Avoid using three-dimensional shapes and shadows and light effects. Just concentrate on making an identifiable and unique mark. Okay? All right. Let's keep going. Mistake number 5, the final one for today, is using generic shapes. What do I mean by generic shapes? Well, I mean things like hearts, leaves, flames, light bulbs. We've all seen a bunch of these icons. They're not unique enough to stand on their own. Think about like the gears and all of the engineering firms that use like a gear icon. When you see a gear icon and another gear icon and another gear icon, you forget what the first one looked like. So these logo marks are not usable for you as a company because you're not going to stick in a consumer's mind. They're just going to see it and then forget all about you because they don't need to remember what your mark looked like since it looked like everybody else's mark. Think about hearts, for example. Like, every hospital in America has a heart for their logo. Why do they all have hearts for their logo? I don't know, but it makes them totally not unique. No hospital is standing out with a mark because everything is red and hearts. This is something to think about in your branding because you don't want to use these generic shapes that have taken on a bunch of other meanings because 1,000 companies use them. Think about leaf logos. How many leaf logos are out there? Thousands? Millions? I don't know, but do you really think that your leaf logo is going to stand out in a market of bajillions of leaf logos? It's just not. It's not going to happen. I don't care if you are a leaf company that makes leaves, which is not even a thing, but you should not use a leaf logo because there's no uniqueness to it. Let's look at a couple examples here. This example is a flame logo, and there's nothing inherently wrong about the logo itself. It's flat, it's simple, but it's a flame, and it just looks like every other flame logo ever. There's nothing in this flame logo that makes me think that this is a unique company. It blends in, and I'm never gonna remember this flame logo. Are you gonna remember this flame logo? No. You're not gonna remember anything about this logo because it doesn't draw you in. And I know, you're sitting there going, but I like my simple flame logo. It tells people that I am a flame company. No, it doesn't. In my video on the secret to great branding, I talk about the logo is just the introduction to your brand. It doesn't have to tell the customer what you do. It just has to be unique enough that their curiosity is piqued and they want to see more of what your brand is and what your company has to offer. So icons like this just don't communicate that. They don't make the customer interested in your brand. Let's look at a popular example of this in this logo right here. What is this logo? Do you know this company? Can you identify it? If you can, bonus points, but this logo is the Reebok rebrand. We all know the Reebok logo is those 3 stripes or swooshes, but they rebranded in 2014 to this triangle. There is absolutely nothing unique about this triangle. This generic triangle shape just doesn't stand out in a crowded marketplace. In fact, it was so bad that Reebok actually just recently went back to its old logo after spending oodles of money branding to this one. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of bad logos today. We've talked about what not to do. But what should you do? How do you design a good logo? Well, real quick, I'm going to give you a couple of quick tips on how to design a good logo. First of all, you want to make the logo simple. Look at this mark. The best marks don't need any introduction because they're so simple and they're so clever that you just know what it is. It doesn't matter if they have a color on there or no color. It doesn't matter if they're small or if they're large. They are very simple marks. Next step, is the logo memorable? The logo has to stick in the customer's brain. We've talked a lot about that. So you need to have a unique mark that stands alone that people can easily remember. The best marks are unique enough that customers aren't going to identify your brand with another company. This is a great example of it. The classic Nike swoosh. It's very unique. It's different. No other company has anything like it. And so we know that whenever we see a swoosh, we associate it with Nike. And the third check to having a great logo is scalability. Is the logo scalable? Can it be a tiny size and still be recognizable? I don't need to introduce you to this brand. This is a very tiny logo, but it still communicates what the brand is. And you know what that brand is because you've seen the mark, and it doesn't matter if it's on a billboard or if it's on your computer screen or if it's a tiny little fab icon at the top of the browser. You know exactly what this mark is. It's simple, it's scalable, and it's memorable. So ask yourself those questions when you're designing a logo, and for the love of all that is good and holy, please avoid all of these mistakes that I talked about today. If I catch any of you out there, I'm going to come and make you subscribe to this channel because you need it. You need to be subscribed to this channel so that you don't make these egregious errors. All right, well, as long as we got that cleared up, go ahead and like this content if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video.